everybody? Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. We are going to bringing you the crossover here today. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point, right there, the CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Israel Rivera. And if you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Prime Sports World is a pretty good place to hang out. We go live basically every single day, bringing the most up-to-date content. Please like, share, and subscribe to the show so that way you don't miss any of our content moving forward, as we are going to continue our NFL season preview. But yesterday, we had the season finale of the NBA, a Game 6 slobber knocker where, Golden State kind of put the hurting on Boston and claimed their fourth title in the last 8 years. Before we get into the actual game, just thoughts on the series as a whole.
Thoughts on the series. It kind of went as expected. I thought Boston was gonna be more. I thought Boston was gonna be a little more tired than what they actually showed, because they went through a kind of a gauntlet in the East, right? They went through the 7-game series. They went through the Nets and KD. They went through a 7-game series with Milwaukee and beat the reigning defending champs and over there in Milwaukee with Giannis. And then they went through a grueling 7-game series with the Miami Heat, which was that Miami Heat series. I thought that was going to be the finishing touches on them to maybe, lose in 5 or get swept by Golden State. But they showed some resiliency. They're a good, young, tough team. But in the end, I said that the first team, somebody was going to have to bend the break, right? So, somebody was going to have to give up something. And it was the first team that, Boston hasn't lost back-to-back games since January, and they lost 3 in a row to Golden State. And they eventually did them. And Golden State didn't give. They were undefeated after a loss in these playoffs, and they didn't lose after a loss. So they were the more resilient team, in my opinion, and the more skilled team, in my opinion.
I don't know about more skilled, but they were for sure the more resilient team. Let's get into the Game 6, the series finale. Golden State wins that game 103 to 90. The game really wasn't that close. I think it feels like it was more like a 20-point victory. Steph Curry bounces back from a really struggling in game number 5, scores 34 points, and finally wins his first Finals MVP. Wiggins, Thompson, and Draymond Green and Jordan Poole all in double digits for the Golden State Warriors. And then on the Celtics side of this, every Celtic not named Al Horford and Jaylen Brown, I don't want to say Green, really struggling this game. Jason Tatum, for real, 6 of 18 for 13 points at a closeout game. Boston struggles again with turnovers, 23 in this game, leading directly to 27 points for the Warriors. Just analysis on game number 6.
Game
as I fixed that graphic.
Game number 6. I mean, Boston came out hot, right? They came out. They were up 12-1 or something like that. They came out on fire.
12-2 at the beginning of the game.
12-2, yeah. They came out on fire. And then Golden State went on like a 50 to something run. I can't remember what it was. It was like a 50 to something run to end the game, to end the half. And they were up 20. I think they were up 15 at the half. Boston came back a little bit in that second quarter. And then that third quarter and, fourth quarter, Boston was resilient again. They kept, Jaylen Brown had a hell of a game. Robert Williams had, played his ass off in this series. But they just didn't get enough from Jason Tatum. I felt like there was a little bit more of from Boston. They were pressing a little bit. They were trying to be a little too aggressive. Marcus Smart picked up 3 bonehead fouls in the first half. I mean, just real fouls that he probably shouldn't be picking up. Running through screens, he knows better than that. And in the end, I just think that this was Steph Curry's year, right? This was Steph Curry's playoffs. This was his finals right here, right? He put a stamp on these finals. He was averaging 34 points per game in this series before game 5 or something like that.
Yeah, 34 before his game 5 performance.
Yeah, before his game 5 performance, and then closed them out in game 6. So this game was, it went as expected. It went as expected. I thought Boston was gonna force a game 7, and they looked like it from the get-go.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
for
I
sure.
said, the youth, and you would think that Boston's kind of grown up a little bit. I just think that the championship experience with the nucleus that the Golden State Warriors have, having Kerr off the bench, having Iguodala on the bench, kind of to calm those guys down. You still got Steph, still got Clay, still got Draymond, still got Looney there. That core, that nucleus, that championship experience is still there. And then you got the younger guys that were catalysts. Jordan Poole did his thing. Gary Payton came off the bench. He had 3 steals, a block, a couple rebounds, 6 points, a couple assists. He definitely played his role in this series. He had 15 big points in the previous game in Golden State. So, and then Andrew Wiggins, man. I mean, it
Yeah.
was his moment too. Andrew Wiggins was the man. I mean, he played really well. He held Jason Tatum to what 38% shooting in this series.
6 of 18, 1 of 4 from the 3-point line in game 6. But yeah, he was a big contributor to the defensive effort that was made against Jason Tatum, and he struggled. He never really got in rhythm for most of the series.
Most of the series, and we got to give Andrew Wiggins some credit on that, man. He showed out on the defensive end, and and then this game 6 on the flip side, I mean, Jason Tatum, I mean, he just didn't show up. I mean, Jaylen Brown showed up. Al Horford, came back in that second half, hitting a few threes.
Jaylen Brown, 12 of 23 for 34 points in this game, including 5 of 3 from the 3-point line. Al Horford, 6 of 8, 4 of 5 from 3-point line, 19 points overall. 5 points from the Boston bench in this game. 5.
Yeah. So there you go. So that Boston bench, albeit I love Grant Williams, but he's like literally their only maybe consistent guy off their bench, so to speak. We could say something different if like maybe Robert Williams was 100%, maybe. He might have played more minutes, might have more of an impact offensively. Especially and honestly, yesterday they got killed on the offensive rebounds. Golden State, I think, and they were like a +9 or something like that in the first half on offensive rebounds yesterday. So they were getting a lot of second chance looks yesterday. And I mean,
won the rebounding battle 44-41. Got more offensive rebounds 15 to 11 in this game alone.
Yeah. So, so Golden State had some second chance looks, and like I said, and Boston was resilient. They came back, and Golden State just had a answer for every answer that Boston had, and then eventually the couple back-breaking plays that Steph Curry made down the stretch, the threes, really did them in. And hey, man, they're hoisting that Larry O.B. in the Bay, man. They're hoisting that Larry O.B. in the Bay.
Yeah, it's it's nice to see the Warriors get back on top, after being down 2 seasons and all this conversation about Kevin Durant. I think that this group kind of proved that they have championship pedigree even without Kevin Durant on this roster anymore.
And honestly, I know the West is going to be a little hard. Kawhi's coming back, and Luka and the Dallas Mavericks, they just added Christian Wood. We'll get to that later. And I know some teams are going to be a little bit better in the West, but honestly, I really don't see anybody really deep. I mean, you're looking at this team, right? Jordan Poole's going to get better. Peyton's just only, he's in his 6th season and he's 29. He's still young. He's looking like one of the better defensive on-ball defenders in the league. You got Moody, you got Kuminga. You can only imagine that they're going to get better. James Wiseman's going to come back healthy. You can only imagine he's going to contribute in some sort of capacity. And I mean, they have high hopes for James Wiseman, right?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't trade him this offseason, or during the trade.
So I think this is the start of something. I think they have a 3-year championship window right here. Right, I think they can win the championship the next couple seasons if everything clicks. No injuries. Klay Thompson doesn't get injured. Steph Curry doesn't get injured. If Andrew Wiggins doesn't get injured. If everything goes perfect or whatever the case is, I think this team can win 3, possibly even 4 in a row. I don't see 4 in a row, but I could see 3 in a row possibly.
So that brings us to the question here. Did the better team win the title this season? Was Golden State a better team than Boston?
Man, I'm going to say this, okay? I'm gonna say,
Also, if you want to join the show, I have posted the StreamYard link to all the places. So if you want to jump in on the NBA conversation, feel free. As I
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you know, I made a post. I made a post. You know, I say disrespectful, controversial stuff all the time to market this podcast. And I made a post. And I had a couple guys trying to come and bait me. You're not gonna bait me, getting me back in the Facebook jail, buddy. I know better. I told you guys I was Wusan, and I invited you guys on the podcast. So I want to see y'all on right now. But anyways, they ain't coming. Like I said, the better team. Whoo! I don't think the better team won, so to speak. I think this Boston team has more potential, especially with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart being the defensive player of the year. I mean, Curry had 30 something. He averaged 30 over 34 or whatever the case is on the defensive player of the year at his position, you know, against Marcus Smart. So that's kind of remarkable in its own way. That just shows you how good Curry is. But I think this Boston team is built to win. They beat KD, they beat Giannis, they beat the best team in the NBA in the Miami Heat. I mean, they showed that they were probably the best team in the NBA. They were the best team in the second half of the season, in my opinion. I mean, they
yeah, I
haven't
mean,
lost back-to-back games since January.
the record shows that they were for sure the best team in the NBA.
Yeah, and honestly, I just think that in these moments, this is a learning experience for that core, right? Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. It's not that they don't work. It's just the fact that, you know, they just need to learn how to beat a championship contending team. I mean, if Jason Tatum gives you any inkling of, you know, what he was in the regular season or what he was in the Eastern Conference playoffs, they win this series probably, right? They probably win this series. So I think that Boston is the better team. Robert Williams is more athletic than any other front court player. I think Al Horford, albeit his age, can still knock down open threes. He's still athletic enough to switch on the pick and roll. We saw the block that he had on Jordan Poole. He could switch on the pick and roll for an old man and block the shot into like the fifth row. So I think that when I say more skilled though, David, I just think off the bench, Jordan Poole is that third splash brother. I think when you look at into the future, when you look at like Curry, I think he was more skilled than Marcus Smart. I mean, Marcus Smart, and I would have loved to see Marcus Smart in
come
the
on.
post a little bit.
I mean, that's I think that's a given.
And this is what I'm saying. It's just this, man. I just think that the team that had more championship experience won. That's it. And that's all I can say. I mean, I don't think necessarily that, you know, Golden State was any better. I just think that they hit bigger shots, and I think the last 3 games they put the clamps on them. That's it.
I do not think the better team won. I think Boston on paper had the better team. I mean, because their two best players are better than the 2 best players in Boston by far, like by a long shot.
You mean the 2 best players in Boston are better than the 2 best players on?
I mean, it's Steph Curry and then whoever else you want. I mean, look at the roster for the Golden State Warriors. Outside of, you know, Steph and Andrew Wiggins, everybody else in this series kind of struggled. That wildly inconsistent from game to game, tonight to night. The only real consistent players were Steph Curry, even though he had that bad game 5, and Andrew Wiggins, who was great in this entire series.
Yeah.
On paper, the Boston Celtics have a much better team. Like, they have a better roster. They have a better collection of talent. I mean, Derek White, I mean, Grant Williams, all those guys gave them legitimate minutes off their bench. Rob Williams, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. That's a good starting lineup.
Next year we'll see, though. Next year we'll see, because next year I think Moody and Kuminga would take that next step up, and you won't be saying that that roster is better than Golden State. We're just saying that now because they have some young guys on that team that haven't blossomed yet, right? But once Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman come, I mean, they have a much better roster than Boston. I mean, they're built better than Boston. They're built off the bench better than Boston. That's why they had a better bench.
I think it's close. Even with the development of Kuminga and Wiseman and, you know, Moses Moody, I still think it's pretty close. I mean,
we could say it is close. It is close, and we should be saying. and I said this too. I mean, players that we've seen this in this era. Players that are 6'3" and under, that are the best players on the team, usually don't win NBA championships. But Steph Curry has been the exception, right?
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
been the exception.
look at Chris Paul's career. I mean, Chris Paul could never get over the hump, and based
And
on
look
his
at look. I
size.
mean, look at Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson
Yep.
had those good teams in Philly, and he made it to the finals, got swept. I mean, we got list goes on and on. Look at Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose won his MVP. He had the best record in the league twice, 2 years in a row. Albeit the second one was with an injury, and they got ousted by the Miami Heat.
Both times.
That
Well, I
first
mean,
go round, right?
yeah, no, they got beat
So
by the Sixers, and then they got beat by the Miami Heat in
yeah,
the
and
playoffs.
the second go round they got beat by the Sixers. Albeit because of injury. But like I said, players. I mean, look at Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard once, even though they went against the
Golden State.
the Warriors with KD, but still, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on and on with guys that are 6'3" and under that aren't winning many championships, that are the best players on their team, and Steph Curry has been the exception. So that's remarkable in its own way. And like I said, man, Jason Tatum, I always consider him to be has a Kobe Bryant like skill set. Jaylen Brown has a little T-Mac in him. He just needs to work on his handle a little bit better, I think, in the off season. But I think this team, I mean, when you talk about you got a Kobe and you got a T-Mac on your team, I mean, that's pretty remarkable right there, right? So I think Boston's in its right way, and I think they have the right coach. Imo Udoka comes from an amazing coaching tree, the Greg Popovich coaching tree, and he was there for so many years. And Greg Popovich just keeps churning out these guys, man.
Yeah.
He keeps churning out these
But
guys, man.
Budenholzer, I mean Kerr, I mean all those guys.
All those guys, man. And Udoka, and I think Udoka's gonna win one eventually. It just didn't happen this year, and I think Kerr made some adjustments as well that showed why he's one of the better coaches in the league, or showed why he's one of the best coaches in the league.
So let's talk Finals MVP. Steph Curry, Finals MVP, finally gets one. After Iguodala won the first one, then two for Kevin Durant, probably both deserving. He finally wins that elusive Finals MVP. But did the right guy win it?
I think yes. Okay, the right guy did win it. I mean, without the Game 4 performance, they don't set up that Game 5 performance. But I mean, without Andrew Wiggins' performance in Game 4, they don't win. He had 17 big rebounds. I mean, even though he was a little bit of a value scorer in that game, he was still doing it on both ends of the floor. And he was doing it on both ends of the floor all series long. I mean, when you have to guard their best player, Jason Tatum, and you make him work for every damn bucket that he gets, I mean, kudos to you, man. And I mean, and we've come up on Andrew Wiggins and said, man, he's soft and all of this other stuff, back in Minnesota. But he showed that he's a tougher player than what people thought he was. I think Steph deserved it. I mean, I think he deserved it. Man, multiple people could have deserved it. If Boston would have won this series, I don't think Jason Tatum deserved it. I think Jaylen Brown deserved it.
Jaylen Brown would have for sure.
Jaylen Brown would have won it. So I think Steph deserved it, especially, and we talked about this already before, behind scenes and on the podcast, that if Steph Curry would have struggled Game 6, and Andrew Wiggins, who had another good game this past Game 6, right? If he would have had that game, maybe gave a little bit more, he probably would have ended up winning the Finals MVP. In my opinion.
I tend to agree with you on that. I think if he notches another game like he had in game, if Steph Curry struggles again in Game 6 like he did in Game 5, he would. I think that he would have won the Finals MVP. With that being said, though, Steph Curry deserved to win Finals MVP.
Yes.
He was the best player on the Warriors for most of this series outside of Game 5. Everything revolved around Steph Curry. He was the straw that stirs that drink, that makes everything possible for them. And I think this also does a lot for Steph Curry's legacy. I mean, you put it into a post, you think he's the best, top best point guard of all time. I'm not willing to say that, but I think he's for sure in the top 3 or top, in that conversation for the top 1. I mean, it's Magic Johnson, him, Isaiah. It's probably 1, 2, 3, however you want to order those guys.
And I had guys, there was guys talking, on that post, mention Chris Paul. Don't mention Chris Paul.
No, Chris Paul's not in the same conversation with.
No, he's not in the same conversation. He doesn't, So it's just like, don't mention Chris Paul. And then the guy, another guy, mentioned this. assist to turnover ratio. Well, Steph plays a little different. I mean, he's and it's a different game, right? He's a shooter. He's a score first point guard. And there's not many pure point guards left in the league. Most of these point guards are combo guards now in the league. And so
they're basically what Allen Iverson was at his prime.
Basically, that's exactly what Steph was. Allen Iverson was the mold of that little combo guard. So when I look at it, when I look at the effectiveness, you get the best player on the floor has the ball in his hands all the time. He's moving off the ball all the time. He's getting the ball to shoot, load up, and when you can pull up from anywhere and hit your threes at that clip, yeah, that's I don't care if you could give me 10 assists. If you could give me 4 or 5 threes a night and you're scoring 28, 30 points and you're dropping daggers on people, oh yeah, I'll take that all day. I'll take that over the assist to turnover ratio all day. And he's got the hand on, he's got the ball, his handle is on a string, so to speak. And he's a big shot maker. We saw, Jordan Poole got his shot blocked 5 rows by Al Horford. Well, here comes Steph Curry, same size, maybe a little smaller than Jordan Poole, makes that shot over Al Horford at the rim. So he's a big shot maker, so that, you got to take all of those into account. And he's a good rebounder for his size. For his size, he's what, 6'2", 6'3". He gets into the paint. He can rebound. With some of the bigs. I mean, he just knows where to go. His spots where to go when the ball hits off the rim. So
he averaging 5 rebounds basically for his career.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's even better numbers than Brook Lopez used to average at 7 feet tall. or Bargnani.
So when I apologize if I come off ignorant to a lot of people, when I say stuff like that, but honestly, it's just, I say wild, outlandish stuff like this all the time. And it's just my take. And I just think from previous interviews, like Magic said, I was never the player Steph was. I mean, we've heard Magic say that before. I'm never the player that Steph was. Like, that kid's remarkable. The way he can shoot the three, the way he has the ball in the handle, the way he can move up in transition like me. The only thing, Magic's, it was big. He was, he can play 1 through 5, and he had the ball on the string. He did everything well, except for shoot the basketball like Steph, right?
Yeah.
So, and he had the championship pedigree. So, we can all make this debate, for years and years and years, but it's everybody has their own opinion. So,
and then last thing before we move on to the last topic for today, which team do you think has a better chance to make it back here next year? If you had to pick one of these two teams, you think it has a better chance of making it to the NBA Finals next year?
I already picked them. I think the Golden State Warriors have a better chance to make it back there next season, despite Kawhi coming back whenever the hell that's going to be. And then we got Dallas, who's going to be much better. I think Dallas is going to be much better. We'll get to that. And we'll see what they're going to do with Jalen Brunson. And then I think when I look at the West, man, you still got Phoenix, you still got Dallas, you still got LA, but I still think when we look at the West, and we're going to look at the development of Poole, and we're going to look at the development of Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman. I mean, that's something that's big right there. That's, I just don't know. And then you still got the championship core. You still got Steph. You still got Clay. You get Clay back healthy a whole season. I just think that the Golden State Warriors are better suited to come back next year and make it to the finals. And then when I look at the flip side, Boston's gonna have, a tougher time. If Middleton plays
I will respectfully disagree with you. I think when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, I think the path for Boston to go back to the finals is easier than the Golden State Warriors path. I mean, the Lakers are going to be better.
Well, okay, go ahead. I don't want to.
I mean, the Lakers are going to be better. Dallas is going to be better. I mean, the Clippers are going to be better. Phoenix is still going to be there. Like, I know not Utah, but the Nuggets are going to have their healthy pieces back next season. We don't know what Portland's going to do this offseason.
Portland's not going to get on it.
Memphis is still going to be a factor.
You got Memphis, and you still got New Orleans. New Orleans.
New Orleans. If Zion comes back.
With all that being said,
I think the path for Boston, like when you look at the Eastern Conference, it's really them and the Bucks that I think are legitimate finals contenders, no matter what happens in the rest of it. And I think Boston's path to the finals, back to the finals, is easier than Golden State's will be.
okay, well, you have to also look at Brooklyn. They didn't have Ben Simmons.
Okay.
They didn't have right. They didn't have Ben Simmons. They didn't have Kyrie and KD. They didn't have Kyrie. They had Kyrie, KD, but they didn't have a Ben Simmons. And when you get a Ben Simmons, that he's the one of the better defender. He's probably the best on-ball
Okay,
defender
all right, but it's
in the
still
league.
that's
You still
three
got
teams.
Philly.
That's
You
three.
still got Philly, right? A whole
Uh,
season with James Harden and Joel Embiid and those boys.
James
And
Harden's
then
about to become the most overpaid
right, and
player in
then
the
you
league.
got Milwaukee. Then you got Milwaukee, who didn't have Middleton in that series.
Yeah, they lose that series if Middleton's healthy.
There you go. They lose that series if Middleton's healthy. So, and then you still got Miami, who, I mean, Jimmy Butler looks like he put the team on his back, but Tyler Hero wasn't healthy either, hamstring injury and all. And then,
But those pieces in Miami are
I
getting
mean,
older.
I don't want to say those younger teams like you. I don't want to say those lower teams like the Bulls have a shot, but the Bulls. I mean, the Bulls are going to get better next year too.
No, they're not.
You don't think the Bulls are going to get better next year?
No,
you don't
they
think the Bulls are going to get better next year? That's what I'm saying. Is that Boston? This was a key chance. Let's just focus on those other teams: Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, Milwaukee. All those teams had some type of injury or didn't have their full roster against Boston, or especially the three that they beat. So, it's going to be tougher for Boston, in my opinion, to come out. Just because I just don't think they have enough off the bench, in my opinion, to compete with those teams.
I will respectfully disagree with you. Moving on from there, actually, if you're in the comments section, if you listen to the show, let us know who has an easier path to the finals next year, Boston or Golden State. I say Boston. He says Golden State. Moving on from the finals were barely over, weren't even over, and all of a sudden we have an offseason trade from Texas to Texas. Christian Wood traded to the Dallas Mavericks. In return, the Houston Rockets received the 26th overall pick in the 2022 draft. So the caveat about this, so Dallas has to make the selection for Houston and then trade the pick away. They also got Trey Burke, Boban Marjanovic, Marquise Chris, and Sterling Brown, basically just salary dumps traded to the Houston Rockets. Christian Wood, since becoming a Rocket, has averaged 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 1 block per game. Wood is in the final year of his deal, eligible for an extension 6 months from right now. The Rockets receive 4 players, all in the final years of their deal, so should provide them cap flexibility next summer. What do we think about this move for Dallas and Houston on both sides of this?
Well, I think that for Houston, I mean, they get rid of a guy, they get a draft pick back in the draft. That's what they want. They want to continue to build that young core. And they want to continue to develop Jalen Green and Porter Jr.
And Alberto Segun, who's a nice player. They want to give him some legit minutes at the 5.
Yeah, and so they were already talking about giving him more minutes than Christian Wood next year. So this is actually a perfect trade for Dallas, though. This makes them much better. It gives them a guy that can stretch the floor, that can defend off the pick and roll as well.
I mean, he's a net negative on the defensive end of the floor. He's not a good defender.
But he can still stretch the floor and shoot. I mean, he's got length. Yeah. He's got length. So, but like I said, man, this guy, Christian
40% from 3-point line.
Yeah, this guy Wood is going to be able to get in the pick and roll and stretch the floor, and that that just adds another element. I think he's a much better player than Kleber and than Maxi Kleber or Kleber and
Dwight Powell.
Who's the other guy? Davis Bertans. So there are other stretch 4s and 5s, right? And then Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell doesn't really give you much on the offensive end. He gives you everything on the defensive end. But when you look at that core, you got Luka, you got Tim Hardaway Jr. Now you got Christian Wood, and then we'll see what's gonna happen with Jalen Brunson, if they decide to bring him back or not. I mean, I'm thinking I'm not thinking. I know he's gonna want a bag next season.
Yeah. His contract was pretty affordable when he signed this 2-year deal or 4-year deal, a 3-year deal with the Houston Rockets last season. So my only concern about this is that this is going to be Christian Wood's 7th team in 7 seasons. The last 2 places that he was at, they weren't exactly excited to keep him. Detroit didn't really try to re-sign him at all. Houston didn't seem to really want to keep him. He's still a fairly young player. He's only 27 years old. I think that he might be a cancer in the locker room is why teams don't want him. He had some situations going on in Houston where he basically showed up late to a shoot around, didn't show a lot of effort in the game once he finally got into the game. And also for Dallas, this is kind of a question of like, why this move? This kind of feels like this is the only move that they're going to make this offseason. Like, is this it? They must know that they're not going to get Zach LaVine, or there must not, like, DeAndre Ayton is not on the market for them. This feels like the only move they could make, and they just kind of, I feel it feels rushed. I wouldn't have done this if I was Dallas.
I'm going to say this about Christian Wood and what you said. When you're playing for teams like Detroit and Houston, I'm pretty sure some frustration settles in.
Sure.
Playing for some losing teams like that. Like, man, I don't want to show up to this damn shoot around today. We're going to lose anyways. You know what I mean? Now that's not being a consummate professional, but I think that there's some frustration there when you're part of a losing culture, right? And so I think going to a winning culture, swinging over to a team that made it to the Western Conference Finals, playing with a guy like Luka Doncic, playing for an owner like Mark Cuban, playing for a coach like Jason Kidd, I think that he's gonna straighten up his act. He's got a lot of talent, man. I mean, he's a good 3-point shooter, man. He's good in the pick and roll, man. He's got an offensive game. And you said defensively, he's not all there. He's a negative net on the defensive end, but he still has some length. He can still alter some shots. So, this I think when it comes down to it, I mean, yeah, if you could Dallas have waited? Yes, but there has to be something there where they're like, okay, this guy fits what we want to do here in Dallas. And I mean, and when I look at it, I'm like, well, you're pretty much getting a great value Kristaps Porzingis in a way, right? You're getting another a guy that's kind of that can stretch the floor and all that stuff. I mean, not as good defensively probably as Kristaps Porzingis, but you kind of get.
It's not even close.
Yeah. You're getting you're kind of getting like a similar type of player that can stretch the floor and shoot the three, right? That's kind of lengthy. So and you just traded that guy away. You just traded that guy. The only difference is that Kristaps wanted the ball and Luka didn't give him the ball. And so when you have two kind of superstars like that, or two stars like that, one of them has to go, and they keep looking.
And let's be serious here. Like, they gave up nothing to make this trade happen. Like,
right? Yeah. Exactly.
These players were not in their future plans. Sterling Brown, Trey Burke, Marquise Chris, Boban, not relevant to anything that they were going to be doing.
And I feel, and Boban loses his best friend. He loses his BFF, man. It's
I mean, Boban might get waived, and he might end up back on the Dallas Mavericks. If you will. I mean, that's the way things go sometimes.
But no, honestly, I mean, I don't know how much this improves them. I think it'll improve them just a little bit. I think in terms of what Cleaver and Bertans gave them, I think Wood gives them a little bit more than those two guys, in my opinion.
Sure. And I mean, they still have those guys on the roster. I mean, they could certainly make a trade. They have Dinwiddie's contract. They have Dwight Powell's contract. They have Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract too. Davis Bertans is another guy whose contract they own. Like, they could flip those guys if they wanted to and still can
get something.
Trade. But they can't trade it. They can't trade a draft pick now until like 2025. I don't know.
Rough. That's rough right there.
Yeah. So I like, if this is their only move, I think this is, I question if this is the best thing they could have done. But
absolutely, on
the Houston side of this, getting a draft asset for a guy you were not going to keep is a home run.
Yeah, and the guy that you weren't really too keen of is a home run. So, and I don't know what this 26th overall pick. It's this year, right? I mean, you could get a guy like EJ Liddell around that range, who can definitely certainly help out the Houston Rockets. You could get somebody down in that late first round that might contribute off the bench or be a rotational player piece. But like I said, man, Houston is all about developing Jalen Green and Kate and Porter Jr. So
And whoever they draft with the 3rd overall pick,
Yeah,
probably
whoever that's going to be. Maybe that's going to be
Brent Carroll,
Paulo
probably.
Banchero, or whoever it's going to be.
Whoever falls of those big 3, whoever ends up falling to them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's let us know what you think about the Christian Ward trade. I think it's pretty head scratching. But also let us know what you think about the NBA Finals. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. They are your 2022 NBA champion. Steph Curry is your Finals MVP. Please like and share and subscribe on the show. We are Prime Sports World, and I'm David Huppin. Right there is Mr. Israel Rivera, CEO of Prime Sports World. And Mr. Rivera, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
Man, we bringing the heat. We're bringing the heat 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. And when I respectfully give you an invite to the podcast, just respectfully come on and let's see if we can talk sports. Okay.
Yeah, let's do some basketball conversation.
Let's do that.
We'll be back. We will be back here on Sunday when we are going to break down the New England Patriots season preview. So if you happen to be a New England Patriots fan, you want to join the show, hit me up on Facebook. I will send you the invite onto the show. We will see you guys on Sunday. You have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you later, buddy.
Holla back, guys.